Hi friends, thanks for joining me today. Today we're going to make a cup of green tea. Yay! So we're here in my kitchen because we are going to make green tea. I have the electric kettle back here that is heating the water. This is going to be a little different from the black tea video that I did a couple weeks ago because I want to talk to you about some tea things, about some tea related things. First, though, we have our mug, a spoon in a dish, and green tea. This is a jasmine green tea, which has been infused with, so during the drying and processing, it sits with jasmine petals to get a slightly jasmine-y flavor. It's usually very nice and smooth. So I'm going to read the brewing instructions for you, okay? It says place 1 tea bag in 6 to 8 fluid ounce cup. Add hot water and let steep for 3 to 5 minutes before drinking and sweeten to taste. So I never sweeten my tea. I like the flavor of actual tea. So just as before, our first step is to put the tea bag in the cup. So while we're waiting for the water to heat up, there are some things about water temperature. If you don't have a way to measure your water temperature, that's okay. So tea should be brewed at different temperatures depending upon your leaves. Black tea and tisanes, which are not actually teas, and we'll talk about those later. Not later today, later. Those can be boiled. 212 degrees Fahrenheit, 100 degrees Celsius, boil your tea. Boil your water. If you can't measure your water temperature, like green tea is in the ballpark of 170 to 180 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 76 to 82 Celsius. If you don't have something that will heat your water to that temperature, you can boil it and put it aside for like 3 minutes, and it'll cool down to a green tea temperature. So we're going to talk about water temperature in a second, but first, I've got to go get my water. My tea bag is already in my cup, so we are just going to pour that water in there. Steep time is also a little different for green tea. Echo, set timer for 3 minutes.
3 minutes, starting now.
And while that's timing, we're going to talk. Let me put that aside. So water temperature. I'm going to see if I can post something here that can kind of show you. So if you can't measure temperature with a thermometer or with something like an electric kettle that has the measurements for you, you can kind of look at the bubbles. So here, crab eyes are what they call just a few little bubbles floating to the top. That is, I'm looking at my notes here, that's about 170 to 180 degrees Fahrenheit, 76 to 82 Celsius. The next level is fish eyes. It's about 95 degrees Fahrenheit, 90 degrees Celsius. You're going to see larger bubbles floating to the surface a little quicker. Next is rope of pearls. We're looking at about maybe 195 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 90 to 95 degrees Celsius. That's steady streams of large bubbles going up. And then the roiling boil, the raging torrent, bubbles everywhere. That's 212 degrees Fahrenheit, 100 degrees Celsius. That's where we want to put our black tea. So crab eyes are good for green teas. Fish eyes, there are some white and red teas you would want to brew at that temperature. Rope of pearls is really for coffee, and boiling is everything else. Black tea, tisanes, all of that. So the other thing I want to talk about, the reason why, so if we recall, the black tea I steeped for 5 minutes. This green tea here is steeping for 3. The reason for that is because tea contains something that you may have heard, a polyphenol, which is a chemical component found in, lots of things. Specifically this polyphenol called tannins. Tannins occur in a lot of plants. Tannins technically don't occur in tea, but polyphenols that behave like tannins occur in tea. So tannins, they're naturally in peanuts and grapes, and I forgot some other things that they naturally occur in. I had a whole list. Chocolate, coca, and tea, or something related to them occurs in tea. Oak also has tannins. That's actually where the term comes from. So tannin comes from when people used to tan leather with oak bark, because the chemical component within oak is what tanned leather. So that's how they got their name. But so the reason why tea technically doesn't have any tannins in it is because you would never use tea to tan leather. They're not really the same, but they are related compounds. So tannins in a plant make the plant taste bitter. It's a defense mechanism. So the plant will release tannins so that things don't eat them. Fungus, echo, stop timer. We're going to take the tea bag out while I continue to talk. So fungus, parasites, predators, all of those things. I'm doing an awful job of this. We're just going to drop that there and call it done. And give that a quick stir. So I was just about to do something. If you saw my video, I was about to squeeze my tea bag. And this is the whole point of telling you about tannins. Don't squeeze your tea bag. The reason for that is because in your bag, let's see if I can show you here, in your bag is the highest concentration of flavor. So often we want to squeeze out that good flavor, right? But because that's where the leaves are, that's also the highest concentration of tannins. And tannins, because what they do is make your tea bitter, you don't want to squeeze them out, because then you might have a more bitter brew. And then you'll have to add things like sugar or milk to kind of make it more palatable, or even dilute it. So that happens, that's very common in Russian tea when they have tea on a samovar all day long. I'll talk about a samovar another time. I have so much material to share with you. So let's see. So when you brew tea from a bag specifically, that higher concentration of infused compounds is right there in the leaves in the bag where all the tannins are. So you don't want to squeeze it out. It should be noted that most commercial tea bags are already made with the lowest quality of leaves. That's dust and fannings. Fannings are small leftover pieces. So whoever is processing your tea takes out, the cat is on the table, and there's nothing I can do about it right now because he's deaf and he can't hear me shouting at him to get off the table. But he just knocked something over. And I'm going to let that go because I'm in the middle of something. Where was I? Fannings. So after somebody processes their good tea by removing the good leaves, like for a loose leaf tea, what's left over? Dust and broken leaves and bits like that. That's what gets put into your tea bag. So your tea bags are already the lowest quality possible. It might be a really good, really expensive tea that you have in your tea bag, but it's the leftovers that nobody really wants in their nice loose leaf tea. So adding more tannins to an already subpar brew, because you're already just have the bottom of the barrel with a tea bag, with a commercial tea bag, is generally not ideal. So I spilled a little bit of tea while I was taking it out. So here is my green tea, and I don't know if you can see, so it's kind of it's a brownie color with a greenish hue, and that is probably because it's like the fannings of a better green tea, but that's okay because it's still going to taste good. And that's it. So we talked about water temperature. And so steep time, it's the same kind of thing. I don't think I talked about steep time. The reason why we steep for less time is to get the optimal flavor without getting more of the bitter tannins. And more delicate leaves need less time to extract their optimal flavor. That's it. So we talked about tannins, we talked about water temperature, we talked about steep time, and we made a delicious cup of green tea. So I'm going to sit down and have this, and I hope all of you are having a lovely day. Thanks for joining me. I am grateful for you. I'll see you next time.